Okay,
Oh
hey,
man.
how you doing?
Uh, well, let's just say survive in advance.
Survive in advance. That is right. That is right. So I
Brother,
guess I know why you're in a little bit of a not as in well, yeah, you're right. Survive in advance is the name of the game.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you know, it's a win. If it would have been a loss, it would have been different. Uh, we're still going to be number one, and keep rocking
Well,
along.
now that's a question. Now, are you going to be number one?
That's fair. Okay, that's a fair question. Personally, I don't think this time of the season really matters. Who's number one? Um, you know, uh, especially not like weeks from now. And I'm not really sure that Florida's loss hurt them. I mean,
Well, no,
they win.
I don't think Florida's loss would have hurt them, but there is that 1,000 pound gorilla that's sitting out there in Athens.
And that 1,000 pound that dog, you look good tonight.
Yeah,
And
because usually
and
that South Carolina game has been one that will, although I guess mostly it's when they go to Columbus, or Columbia, but that South Carolina game usually is a thorny one for them.
mhm.
And from what I can tell,
Yeah,
they seem
always.
to have
I
no
mean,
problem
since
with
they
it.
came into the league, you're right. Since they came in the league, it's been a thorn in their side, and for them to beat them like that, um, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but is that in your opinion, is that of course Georgia has talent, but has Muschamp just let that program just bottom out?
I think so. I think so, and hopefully, he's still a young guy, but hopefully that will teach people that he really doesn't need to be given any more head coaching jobs.
I think that right there should have definitely showed him that. I mean, when I don't think he should have ever been given another chance after the debacle at Florida, because it wasn't like he was left in the cupboard was bare,
No,
and and he runs that program straight into the ground. That they still really have not, uh, you know, they're almost locked in mediocrity some years,
but
and
that's
you know,
they've gone a little. They're. It seems like they're getting, and that's I want to touch on them a little bit later as well. They seem like
yeah,
they've just now gotten out of that hole. But I really do think that when he was given that coaching waiting job at Texas, and that kind of made Florida jump the gun to go hire him, that I think that really stunted his growth as a head coach, and he should have been allowed to actually be a coach in waiting under Mac Brown, and I think that maybe would have helped him
yeah.
out a little bit.
I don't mind. Well, I guess I kind of do. Um, I guess it helps with recruiting, but I don't really like the head coaching waiting. I mean, because it's almost like you're sitting there. This guy's 73 years old. I'm 32. I got to let's push him out of the way, man.
Well,
Let's go and
and
get
I
this thing
think that's
started.
I think that was kind of that was definitely the case at Florida State, and
I'm gonna tell them. Hey, look, they can say what they want. They fired Bobby Bowden.
yeah,
I mean, they can say he was resigned. They can say this right here. No, two ways about it. They fired Bobby Bowden.
well, yeah, because there
Well,
was a situation where they didn't want the same thing to happen with Bowden that they didn't want the same thing to happen with Jimbo Fisher that had happened with We were just talking. I forgot his name. Wolf Muschamp. They didn't want somebody to come out and because James Franklin was the exact same for James Franklin at Maryland. James Franklin was supposed to be the head coach in waiting at Maryland under Ralph Regan, and
Yeah,
Vanderbilt came and
kind of
hired
forgot
him
about
out
the
from
Ralph region.
Vanderbilt came out and hired him out from under them. And Muschamp, the same thing. Florida did that with Muschamp at Florida, and I think FSU didn't want the same thing to happen with Jimbo, and that's why
Well,
they jumped the gun and get it.
yeah, but the thing with Jimbo is in that situation, Mac didn't quit fighting to keep his job until the final day. Mac went down swinging.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby was 84, 82, something like that.
Oh,
and
he was ready to go anyway.
Right. And Bobby said, I just want one more year.
Mm-hmm.
I just want one more year. And Bobby said, I want one more year to be the head coach. And I think that Florida State made a huge mistake by not letting him do that. It should have been like with Frank Beamer, where they have a farewell tour and thank Bobby for the memories and what he did for the program and farewell tour for him, because let's face it, Jimbo wasn't going anywhere that year. And when they went in there that meeting, the offer was something like, Bobby said he wanted to be the head coach, and they said, well, you can be the head coach but ambassador, but you will have no say so. Jimbo will be in charge.
Jimbo's
And
basically
Bobby
going to be
said,
the head coach. Yeah.
yeah, he said, you can be head coach in name, but you will have no say so on any football operations. And Bobby said that's not an option. And that's when he's left.
Which
I think
the funny thing to me about I'm sorry to break. The funny thing
no,
the funny thing about that to me is, wasn't that basically what Bobby was during the last few seasons of his tenure anyway?
I mean that yes, Bobby Bowden had went up to and most coaches when they get to that age, except for a few. I mean, obviously Bill Snyder was still in charge at Kansas State. There's no doubt about that. I even think Paterno was still involved. But when coaches get that age, they turn it over to a CEO thing. I mean, like I remember in 2007, Florida State played Alabama, and Jimbo made the statement that Bobby might come by his office twice a week. Well, he said he'd been in there every day that week.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that coaches get to. I was explaining this like on our group the other night, and somebody said something about. I might say about. I'm sure you read about putting people around you that are smart.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you look good, and that's what I believe. You put people around you smart, and they're going to make you look good. And I think that's what Bobby was doing. He was putting people around people that were smart, but I don't know really what happened then. If you had so many people that was kind of wanting that job and was cutting Bobby, or if you had the other teams out there going, "Hey, Bobby ain't gonna be here for another year, man. You want to stay here for Bobby and go through this right here, or let's start over." Because Bobby still had some good talent on those teams, but it was just something wouldn't click. He lost for it.
I think one thing that, and I think a lot of coaches have this problem. Eventually, a lot of coaches have this problem is that you can have and that's the one thing that kind of makes Saban such a rarity when you consider that Saban is actually pretty old and he's been around the block for a pretty good while.
He'll be 70. He'll be 70 this year.
Yeah, and you got to think he's been a top level head coach for, I want to say, going on. I mean, outside of the year, well, really you can't even discount the years that he was with the Dolphins because that's the NFL.
But and then remember, he was the head coach at Toledo for 1 year as well.
That's what I was about to say, because I want to say he was because he came to Toledo. Did he go to Toledo?
He came to Toledo as head coach, and
Then he
Belichick
left
got the
to
head
go.
coach of the Browns, and he left to go become the defense coordinator and linebacker and defensive back coach at with Belichick.
And then now,
And
was he with Belichick until Belichick got fired, or did he leave to go to Michigan State before
no,
Belichick got fired?
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head because I'm Toledo was in 1990, and the Giants had just won that Super Bowl, and Belichick got the job, and I think Belichick was there from 81 to 85, or excuse me, 91 to 95. So he probably left and took that Michigan State job because he was there till 99 and then left to go to LSU, if my memory serves me
That
correctly.
sounds about that 99 sounds about. I know that's about when he went to LSU because he was
Oh,
because I remember they played Georgia Tech in a bowl game. I want to say it was 99 or 2000. It was like his first or second year.
see, what I was thinking was that no, he left and he took over when Pearl's retired, and he became the head coach in '86, and he left in '99 because that was the year they fired Jerry DiNardo, and Bobby Williams took over as the head coach, and Saban went because in Saban's first or second year, maybe it was 2002, he won the SEC title, but he should have never won it because Alabama was on probation,
Mm-hmm.
and Alabama would have been in there. And then I think it was 2003 when he won his first national championship against Oklahoma.
Yep.
Because Auburn went undefeated in '94, so I'm pretty sure he got the job at Texas A&M at LSU in '96.
It was 1999.
He got hired at LSU in '99.
Yep. And that was he went 8-4, and they played the Peach Bowl against Georgia Tech. That was with Rohan Davey. I remember that game.
Oh God, Rohan Davis. Well, what did because sorry, I'm not argumentative with you. Where did he coach at from when he got fired, when they got fired at the Browns until he got the job at LSU? I mean, not LSU, Michigan State.
He was with the
Wait a second,
he
maybe
got the Michigan State
I
job.
may have listen. I may have got totally backwards here. He got the. Did you say he got the job at LSU in '99 or Michigan State in '99?
Not LSU in '99. He got the Michigan State
Okay,
job
all
in
right.
'95.
Never mind. We're okay. We're on the same page then. I had you confused saying that he got the job at LSU at Michigan State in '99, and I was saying no, he got the job at LSU in '99.
No,
So
yeah,
no, we're on the same
we're on
page.
the right path.
Yeah, yeah.
And what I'm looking at,
Rohan Davey.
he was
Sorry.
he was with the Browns through the '95 season, or was he with? No, he was not with the Browns through the '95 season. So yeah, so he left the Browns before Belichick got fired.
And he took over at Michigan State.
Yeah.
Um, and I want to touch on Rohan in just a minute, but I was reading, and I mean, I know there's no doubt. I mean, I know I could play for them because they're just mentally tough and used to coaches and our army and stuff. But I was listening to Langham, and I love Langham. One of the best defensive backs I've ever seen in my life. And he was talking about that Saban was the defensive backs coach, and they asked Langham about his sideline outburst today, and Langham laughed, and he said, "What you see today is nothing that you've seen in 1995." He said, "Every day," he said, "we wanted to fight him."
Like I said, I could see it. There's actually a pretty funny thing on ESPN. It's on their YouTube page. where they show some coaches when they're playing days, and they have a picture of Saban, and it's really funny how it looks just like Nick Saban, the facially. It looks like his head pasted on a player's body, because you can't imagine him actually being a player.
No, he's only like 5'6".
Yeah.
But they said that football was so important to them that he would study hours and hours and hours in game film and just and break it down. I mean, I guess there's some people that's meant for it. I mean, but his career, and following everything, and I think it's so funny. I love watching this. You can find it on YouTube the compilations of his breakdowns, and I mean, I can just he reminds me, and I hope people don't get upset because I don't mean this political, but think about it. He reminds me of when Trump would come out on the White House lawn to give a speech, and Trump looks all calm and everything. And he starts talking, and he's answering questions, and he gets himself so worked up into a frenzy that his face is red, and Saban does that all the time. I mean, what he's talking about, and he's just worked into a frenzy, and he don't even know what they're talking about.
Yep.
So today was an interesting football day.
I have two thoughts about today, about the games today.
Shoot.
First thought is that the results of a lot of the games today, to me, show that
I'm grabbing Dr. Pepper. I can still hear you. Keep talking. I'm grabbing Dr. Pepper. I can still hear you. Just keep talking.
Okay. The results of the games today show to me that either we overestimated the first week of the season, or a lot of teams still don't know what they actually are right now. It's one of the two, because a lot of the teams that I thought were really impressive the first opening week dropped the ball this week. And a lot of the teams that weren't very impressive early on showed something this week. So I'm not sure which direction it's going to go. I guess the rest of the season is going to have to play out to make sense of it. But there's a disconnect somewhere. A lot of some teams from early this season, they aren't the same team that they were this week.
Last Saturday, I would have told you that Alabama is head and shoulders above the rest of the rest of the nation. Watching them play Miami. Then I see Miami get beat by 14 points by Michigan State. Again, we shouldn't be comparing scores. Then my upset, the one that I had a lot, I had my Georgia Tech, and I'm sorry, I thought y'all had Clemson, but that's how it goes sometimes.
Well, what? A side note on that game, I missed the show. I missed it this week, so I guess you're saying that you had picked that as an upset.
Yeah.
That
I had
was
Georgia Tech over upset.
That was the most. I say this as a fan. That was the most proud I can. Watching that game, I've seen Georgia Tech win an Orange Bowl. I've seen them win an ACC championship. I remember. I'm old enough to actually remember them winning a national championship, even though it wasn't a national. Right. Even though it wasn't the national championship at the time, they still had to do the. I think
they still won the national championship though.
But I'm still old enough to remember that. Today, the way that they played against Clemson, which I'm assuming that Clemson is still a good team.
They got talent. They say they've got the best 5 defensive linemen in football.
They do, and I am more proud of how Georgia Tech played against Clemson today than I can remember in a very long time.
that was one of. I hate it when I get my upsets wrong. Now, I guess I should take solace in they covered the spread.
Oh yeah, they well covered. They were supposed to lose that game by I think something like 20-something points.
Yeah. So I think I take solace that they covered the spread, but when I come out there on that line and I make that prediction that they're going to upset, then I want them to do it. But it's here or there. They didn't do it, but they still covered the spread. So I didn't get my upset. But hey, if I'd put $200 on that game, I'd have $200.
Yeah.
Now the one game that got me was the one that I was 100% take it to the bank. It's straight up. They're going to beat them. I'm following by the trends. And then Colorado gets beat by 30 points by Minnesota.
That's one of that's one of the games that I was looking at to say, what does that game, what sense do we make of this season now? Because remember last week we were all like, Texas A&M, Colorado played them, and of course, there was a quarterback issue, quarterback getting hurt, but Colorado held down Texas A&M. They looked so good in that game, but now you get run over by Minnesota by 30, and Minnesota, and Minnesota, Ohio State struggles with Minnesota the first week of the season, and we think that may be a sign of trouble for Ohio State. And then they go, of course, they lose the next week to Oregon. But now you see a Minnesota team that runs over Colorado. What does that maybe say about Ohio State? Is Ohio State maybe not as bad as what their early results have supposedly told us?
And what are we saying about? I mean, because to me, this is a pivotal make or break year for Jimbo. I mean, what are we saying about him? If he's scoring, 10 points against Colorado, and he walks in and plays Alabama, I mean, you may be looking at, and I know Alabama has some growing pains, 50. It can be bad.
Well, it's we talked about it. I think we touched on it last week, or maybe it might have been about it. I think we touched on it as far as Ed Orgeron's situation. But again, if you're Jimbo Fisher, you're getting paid 75, however many millions of dollars you're getting paid from Texas A&M. You're not getting paid that money to just be the number 2 team out of the SEC West,
and to get blown out by them.
But in all honesty, we have to start really wondering now: are you really the number 2 team out of the SEC West?
I don't think the number 2 team out of the SEC West. After tonight, I've heard people put them down all season long. From what I've seen tonight, and they could improve and be the best. Auburn's the best team out of the West.
Well, they just lost to Penn State.
They did, but I mean, to go to Happy Valley against number 10 team, a hostile environment with a new coaching staff.
And that is true. But now to piggyback on that point, we got Auburn, who before the season, I think it would have been fair to have said Texas A&M should be better than Auburn. You also have Ole Miss. Before the season, it would have been fair to say Texas A&M should be better than Ole Miss.
Yeah.
You got Arkansas. Before the season, Texas A&M is supposed to be better than Arkansas. Right now, 3 weeks into the season, are we confident to say Texas A&M is better than either of those 3 teams?
I'm almost confident to say that they could possibly be the worst team in the West.
Who is that?
A&M.
Well, now you still got Mississippi State and LSU.
That's true. But
Speaking of
I mean,
which, I
that's
have
true.
to ask: Did you see how Mississippi State lost that game today?
Oh my God, man! I was shocked. I mean,
Well, now let me ask you this: if you're Mike Leach, the SEC has since come out and said that that play shouldn't have counted, not because the guy wasn't able to pick up the fumble and everything, but they've said that that play shouldn't have counted because they were supposedly a referee was supposedly signaling that the play was dead, and
right.
apparently they didn't let it didn't go through. So now, if you're Mike Leach, how does that make you feel?
I mean, I'm mad as hell. I
I
mean,
agree. To me, that's the kind of thing. I get that you want to be. I get that you want to be transparent and everything, but just lie to me. Just tell me. Just tell me that everything was right, and there's no reason for that play not to have happened. Just tell me everything was all right with that play.
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's no way. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, I understand exactly what's going through his mind. Um, I mean, I'm sure he's still fuming over it now.
Oh, he's got to be. Like I said, that is a terrible way to lose a game, and especially like I said, to lose the game and then be told afterwards that you shouldn't have. Well, and maybe they wouldn't have lost. Like I said, that there was still plenty of time, and that's one thing I always like to say in situations like that is that you can't say that that play lost the game or won the game for
Right.
Memphis, but still, you don't want to be told that that play shouldn't have counted for a reason that didn't actually have anything to do with the play. You know, like I said, they said it was some referee was trying to signal the play down or something incorrectly. But even though he was incorrectly signaling it down, they said that the referees were still supposed to stop play at that moment.
I mean, that's what I hate about when I'm listening to, our Monday morning quarterbacks. I'm listening to, I won't call his name out, but he's a friend of mine. But listen to him talk. Georgia's never lost a game to anybody ever in the history of college football. So he's going through the Alabama National Championship game back in 2017. And he says, well, he was talking about some play and a penalty or something. He goes, well, if Georgia gets that penalty, that's a field goal, and Georgia's up 16-0. There's no way Alabama's coming back. And I said, you don't know that. And he said, well, they can't come back from 16 points down. I said, here's what you're not taking into consideration. They're going to make adjustments to counter what you're doing so they can start moving the ball and scoring. They're not just going to keep doing the same damn thing. Now, Kirby is, but, they're not, you can't just say this one play is going to change it. And, I mean, he said,
Well, like I said,
not on that.
the only plays that I will ever say decide a game is any play that happens when there are zeros on the clock.
Yes.
If there's still time left in the game when a play is made, that play doesn't decide the game.
I mean, because the worst one that I've ever seen before in my life, I mean, it's when, and I always get them mixed up, but what was it? Ohio State's already out there ripping open and the Tostito bags and celebrating, and players are on the field and getting their pictures taken, and 35 seconds later, there's a flag on the field, and they're calling a pass interference.
Mm-hmm.
and that man, I was like, how do you call that 35? I mean, where did you come up with that at? I mean, to me, a pass interference is a bang bang play.
That's what
You
it's
know,
supposed to be.
you thought it's a bang bang play. It's like out at first. You throw the flag then. It's not. I'm going to sit here and wait for it for 35 seconds and then analyze it and then decide. Now, here's what troubled me today.
Okay.
Alabama's up 21-3, first quarter. I'm sitting there going, the rally's on. It's fixing to be 56-10, 56-13.
Oh boy.
And the final stats end up being Florida had 440 yards. Alabama's 331. Florida had 245 yards rushing to Alabama's 91. That's some red flags right there to me.
That it? Now,
Now,
let me ask you a question, because this is actually getting into what I wanted to get into about Florida, but it's a question that goes both ways. You watched the game.
Mm-hmm.
Was it red flags on Alabama's part? Is it red flags on Alabama's part, or is it good, I guess, good indications on Florida's part? Was it more bad Alabama play, or was it good Florida play?
I don't know, to give you an honest answer, because as I'm watching the first three drives, Florida cannot slow Alabama down.
Mm-hmm.
And Alabama is going right down the field, just running down their throat, and it's 21-3. And then Florida can't, and then Florida starts moving the ball. I guess they found something, in Alabama's run game, and Alabama cannot stop Florida's running game. So and there's no doubt there's talent on Florida's team. Did Mullen's coaching staff find a weakness that they could exploit on Alabama's running team to slow the game down, keeping Alabama's offense off the field, controlling the clock, and get them back in the game?
Now, let me ask you this, because you've seen Florida. You've seen a lot of Florida over the last two seasons. Last year with the SEC championship game, and this year.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that Dan Mullins has it's not as unique as it used to be, but he has a fairly, his offense at Florida, I would say, is unlike what most. You're not going to see that offense very often in the SEC. Is it fair to say?
Right.
Even if Dan Mullins in Florida found something and they were able to take advantage of it based off their offensive scheme, is that something that could be easily replicated by, let's be honest, there's only really one team that's going to have the talent to
Georgia?
Yeah. Is that because Georgia's not going to run Dan Mullins' offense?
I think that Georgia has the talent, and they have a similar. They're not the same, but they have a similar style, so to speak, that they could exploit that to beat Alabama.
Yeah.
I think they can exploit that. What I've seen with, I'm not taking anything away from Bryce. I think a fantastic quarterback, but what I've noticed is Alabama is having an identity problem. They are not this finesse offense, spread the field, receivers that they want to be, but then they are stuck in trying to be physical, but they're not the physical team that they once was, and they've got to pick who they're got to pick what they're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Are they going to get better? Sure. There's no doubt. Alabama's going to get better. But they've got a lot of growing pains to do. I mean,
and that goes back,
right.
and like I was saying, that goes to show that a lot of what we were talking about, a lot of when we first week of the season, we thought Alabama was unstoppable. Now, a little bit of the, I guess, and this is why I asked the question earlier. Is there an argument to say right now? And I hate to say it. I hate to ask this question. Is there an argument to say Georgia's not the number one team in the country? The only argument against them was the fact that Alabama looked so unstoppable.
I would not say there's an argument for Georgia to be the number one team in America at this point because of the two teams that Alabama played. Of course, Miami has proven they've not that team, but they're still ranked high. There is an argument to definitely be made that Georgia is at least the third team in America.
Oh, you're only putting them at third best. Now,
was it? Excuse me. This is the question. There is an argument to be made that Georgia is the second best team in America because from what I've seen of the other teams out there, ACC, I do not put Ohio State there with them. I do not put anybody in the Pac-12. I was not impressed with Oklahoma at all today. So I think there is a strong case to put Georgia at number 2. And this may sound crazy, but I think there's also a case to say Georgia could possibly be number 3. Excuse me, not Georgia. Florida, number 3, and Auburn, number 4.
In the country.
Yes.
What?
Now, let me rephrase that. Let me change that. Auburn, number 5, and Penn State, number 4.
Okay, I was about to say you got to have even though you might not, even though their play might not indicate that they're that great, they do have it. They do own the victory over them.
Right. I meant to say.
You know what? I have to say, the way that Florida came back in this game, I'm not sure that I could. I'm not sure that I could fall. I'm not sure that I could say. I'm not sure that I could argue against that.
Down 21-3, the way Alabama was dominating, they could have licked the stamp and mailed it in.
Mm-hmm.
And they took it right down to the end. They didn't quit. That shows a lot of character and a lot of fight.
Well, it also shows because again, up until today, Alabama was unstoppable, and that was again Miami. We now know that Miami may not be that great, but Miami is still if you want to say an average Power 5 football team. There's 65 Power 5 football teams between the SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12. Miami is no worse than 30th out of those 65 teams. So if you're saying that Alabama could just run over an average just an average, not even saying that they're a top 25, just an average P5 football team that's going to go, Miami's going to go to a pretty decent bowl game because they're still probably going to be in the top 5 or 6 of the ACC. Alabama completely bowled them over. And then they rolled over the next week. And then this week, they actually face some problems with a top. Florida was in the top 10, weren't they?
They were 11th.
They were 11. See, this is one thing I don't understand. How is Texas A&M so high and Florida not as high?
The hype, I think they're put. I don't know. I don't know how they figured this stuff out. I'm glad that game today with Florida put Alabama in a 12-round fight, because that's only going to help them going down the rest of the season.
Oh, you know what?
I mean,
I would say this. If you're onto something and that was a case where Alabama has some cracks in their armor, you better believe those cracks are going to get filled up after this week. And I would hate to be, who are they playing next week?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Whoever they're
But
playing,
you're right.
whoever they're playing next week, they better be worried.
Oh yeah, because after a game like that, and him coming off pissed off, and the players pissed off, yeah, he's going to be out for blood. When I start looking at
Southern Mississippi, you know what? I have a soft spot for Southern Mississippi because
I always have too, because of the way they used to beat the teams.
Yeah, and all their old Conference USA mates all left. They've all gone on to brighter pastures, and they just left. They just left Southern Mississippi in that decaying conference of Conference USA. I really do feel sorry for them next week. It's a primetime game on the SEC network. Alabama is going to slaughter them.
Oh my God.
That is going to be a pick your score game, because it's like you said, he is going to get those boys worked up over this game.
And one thing I'll say about Saban too, some people will say that he does, but let's just face it, he's not going to call the dogs off.
Well, you got to. Here's what I always have a problem when people talk about calling the dogs off. College football doesn't have a preseason,
right?
So your games, these early season games, especially these early non-conference games, and when you think, because who did they? I just had the schedule up. I forgot, who did they play last week?
Mercer.
Okay, you played a decent Miami team the first week. You played Mercer last week, so that's one warm-up game. And then you go to there and you have to go to the Swamp to play what should be a top 10 Florida team in one of the most hostile environments in the country for your third game.
Oh, absolutely.
So I mean, like I said, I'm not saying that you go into that game and you're throwing 50-yard touchdown passes when you're already up 50-0. Maybe but you run your offense. You run your offense.
This goes back to something that you said a few weeks ago that I want to bring up. I've always agreed when Spurrier said that about, I'm going to run my offense, you got to stop it. Well, eventually, to me, there comes a time, when you're up 42-3, that we really need that other touchdown and take a chance on losing a first-round draft pick.
Let me rephrase that. Now, if you're Alabama and you're playing against Southern Mississippi, let's be honest, your third stringer should be able to play. Your third stringers are better than their first stringers in most situations.
I understand that.
So basically what I'm saying is, yeah, you run your offense and the back. I want to say this is a thing that Spurrier said, but it might have been some other coach who always got accused of running up the score. The backups deserve just as much of a chance to play as the starters do.
I believe Spurrier did say that, and I agree with that right there. That if I was a coach and I put my second string in, I would still let my quarterbacks throw the ball and my receivers catch the ball. My receivers make plays. The point I'm making is when we're talking about is there is second quarter of 35-7. It's time to take Tua and Jalen and set
Oh
those
yeah,
young guys on the
now
bench.
that's one thing that I always get upset with coaches with is when you're in that kind of a game, because for some strange reason, coaches never seem to want to take the starters out in the first half. No, if you're it's like last year, and it was a we were on the other side of it, so it was a bad experience. Clemson had like a 50-3 lead against Georgia Tech last year at halftime, and I was just sitting there thinking, Trevor Lawrence doesn't need to be in this game,
Right.
like halfway through the second quarter. And it, as a Georgia Tech fan, it would not have offended me if you take him out at that point, because,
Right.
like I said, you're I don't even know how to say his name. The quarterback that they have now, who was the backup last year,
Yeah.
he's still going to be able to. He's still going to be. He's still going to be able. Because matter of fact, they ended up still being able to score points with a punter in the game because they ran out of quarterbacks eventually. So, like I said,
Yeah.
I that's one thing that I've always had an issue with coaches with is when you know that you have an outmatched opponent, get those starters out as early as possible.
And I'll say this right here, and I don't know if this had anything to do with it, but this is something that I don't like that Saban does, and he's always done it. Florida came back and almost tied that game and gave those yards. Saban will not substitute a defensive player. So they play the whole fourth quarter every down. So these guys are tired
Yes.
in the fourth quarter. And it's not like you don't have three deep over there that's just as good as your first string that you can't put in there and let him play a few plays and rest somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that about Saban. Not only are you not getting your young guys experience, you're wearing your starters out by the time you get to that playoff. You're giving up 45 points.
Yep.
I don't like that. I don't like Saban's philosophy on that.
Yeah, I think this is one thing that I really like about what Jeff Collins does here at Georgia Tech is that he doesn't have a depth chart. He doesn't have a depth chart. He has and I mean
Really?
it's a when I say it, it's gonna sound silly because it is partly a marketing. He's turned it into a marketing gimmick. He
I
has
like that though.
he has what he calls an above the line chart. Now,
Okay.
again, it's partly silly. Above the line, ATL, yeah, that's the marketing part of it. But basically, what it is that instead of saying this is quarterback one, this is quarterback two, this is quarterback three, this is wide receiver one, wide receiver two, and basically saying these are the starters, these are the backups. The starters are going to play, the backups are going to play when the backups have to play. He basically says anybody who shows enough during practice that they're above the line, they're going to play.
I
And
like
he's going
that because it's going to make your players play their ass off to get that playing time.
and that's exactly how he describes it. And
That's a good.
that's one thing that I will give him is that's exactly how he plays. He will rotate those guys into the game so that that there's a difference between the starting linebacker and the backup, the starting middle linebacker and the backup middle linebacker.
Yeah.
But the backup middle linebacker still gets plenty of playing time during the game because he's going to rotate as much as as much as the offense allows him to. The one team that he's had a problem with was against Central Florida because they have that up-tempo offense, so he couldn't rotate the players in. But for the most part, when he gets a chance to rotate players in, he does a good job of rotating those players in so that everybody who is above the line gets a chance to play. And I think that is the way that most coaches should do it.
And I like that. I really do. I mean, I think that's a good idea because it's going to make, it's going to make them fight for that job. I mean, because they want to be on the field. I think I think that's a great idea. I've never heard anybody do that before. I never was one who liked the idea of when coaches would say senior leadership, playing this senior over this sophomore, blah, 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 and something like this. And I remember in the 92 national championship game when Alabama played Miami. Do what now?
I was just changing my channel. Boise State's playing Oklahoma State, and it's apparently
I'm going to change mine.
They just missed the field goal to go ahead.
Because I was watching, and I meant to change to see Arizona State at BYU.
Yeah, that one's at halftime now.
So I was watching that one. Let's see, what channel are we on here? What channel is that game on?
FS1.
FS1. I wonder if I've got that one. They just changed all my channels, and I've got this. So wait a minute. Hold on, I'm gonna have that channel. One thing I never liked is they would say, senior leadership, senior talent, and don't get me wrong, that's important. But I remember when Tommy Tuberville was the defensive coordinator at Miami, and they played Alabama for the national championship, and they was talking about Gino Toretto, and and him winning the Heisman that year, and they was talking to Tuberville about it. When the Heisman had been a great quarterback, and Tuberville said he wasn't even the fourth best quarterback on our team. And I've always had a problem like, well, why don't you play the best guy? I don't care if he's, this guy's been here for 3 years biding his time. If I got a freshman coming in that's better than this guy right here, he's going to play.
Well, I always I always said this was the difference between the way that Nick Saban handled his quarterback situation with Tua versus the way that Kirby Smart handled his situation with Justin Fields.
Yeah, Justin Fields.
When you bring in those high caliber quarterbacks, you have the 5-star quarterback coming in to compete against another 5-star quarterback, or 4-star whatever. You open it up and you give it a fair competition. And I'll also say this is what Dabo did with Trevor Lawrence. Even if you do say that you're going to start off with the senior or the more experienced quarterback, you give that you tell that quarterback your job is on the line because this other kid can beat you out. 9 times out of 10, this other kid probably did beat you out, but I am going to go with you just because you are my senior leader.
What surprised me? Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, what I'm saying is, I'm going to 9 times out of 10, this other kid did beat you out, but I'm going to acquiesce to you because again, you are the leader, you are the senior. But the first sign of trouble, I'm going to put this kid in the game. And I think that's why Saban was able. That's what Saban did with Tua, and that's what Dabo did with Trevor Lawrence. That's what Kirby did not do with Justin Fields. And I think that was his detriment.
Is that year when Alabama started off and they played Louisville, and I'd never seen this name before, but they named Jalen and Tua co-starters. So I'm sitting up there, and me and my friends are debating, and I make my bet. I said, he's going to start Jalen.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend's like, no, he's starting Tua. I said, no, I said, I feel like he's going to start Jalen because Jalen's been there the longest.
And
Well,
like I said, that's fair.
and then, well, of course, I was wrong. Tua takes the field.
Well, no, I thought Jalen did start. I thought Jalen started, but Tua played.
If I,
Or wait a minute,
again,
am I thinking about the right? Am I thinking about the right season? Are you talking about?
I think
Are you talking about Tua's freshman season or his sophomore after they won?
after they won the national championship, when they came out against Orlando, and Tua started the game.
Oh no, I
And
knew Tua was the starting quarterback. That I knew right away Tua was gonna. I knew Tua was gonna come back to be the starting quarterback when he won his national
yeah,
championship.
there's no doubt about it. But the way Saban played that, and he played this thing so perfect. He started Tua,
Mm-hmm.
and he let Tua play like the first 3 series or something, and Alabama was clicking on all cylinders. And he put Jalen in, and Jalen didn't have a great performance, and he put Tua back in, and
Mm-hmm.
Alabama's offense goes back to clicking on all cylinders again.
He basically put Jalen on the spot to say, we're going to give you a chance to show that you're not the man.
And he showed the entire Alabama team, the entire Alabama faithful, that Tua was the person who deserved to be quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the most perfect way for him to handle that.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't that how he did the previous season? Because Tua played a lot his freshman season too, didn't he?
Tua played a lot in his freshman season, because a lot of times Alabama would be up. And my buddy, Mike, man, he's a big old tall black dude. I used to work with. I love Mike Death. But Mike told me the second game of the season, he said, Tua is the best quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I said, no, man. Over Jalen? Jalen? He said, man, Tua's the best quarterback on that team. And I didn't really pay attention to him. I kept watching. I said, Mike, you're right. I said, he's the best quarterback. He's the best quarterback.
But now that freshman season, I think the difference is until they got to that SEC championship game. Oh no, not the SEC. No, not the SEC.
The Auburn game.
The Auburn. Because until they got to that game, Jalen had never actually opened the door for Tua to become the starter. If that makes any sense.
And I don't blame so much on Tua, but I mean on Jalen, because that defense that Auburn had is probably one of the best one you've seen in 15 years, and Jalen had absolutely no time, and they destroyed Jalen's confidence in that game.
Well, that defense shut down Georgia. Correct. The dad just shut down Georgia the week before they played Alabama.
Yes.
That was a hilarious. If anything, when they talk about and of course there's no way to control it, that Auburn team got screwed by their schedule because you play the top two teams in the country. You play 3 games against the top 2 teams in the country, and you go 2-1. You're pretty damn good.
The idiot, and they actually had his name mentioned as the head coach for USC as an outside shot, which just blew my mind.
Who was that?
Malzahn?
No, that'll never work.
No, and I laughed at that, but Malzahn had the best defense I've seen maybe since the '92 Alabama National Championship team, and all he had to do was manufacture a couple of points here and there, and they win a national championship. I mean, when they played LSU, they lost LSU. I think it was up 13-10 at halftime against LSU, and they won. They lost 23-20 or 26-20, 23-20, and they held them to 23 points. Well, somebody pointed out, yeah, but they gave up 500 points, 500 yards of offense. I said, true. I said, but LSU was scoring 52 points a game. I don't care if you drive 80 yards down the field and I hold you to a field goal. I'll trade that all day long with you having a 70-yard strike for a touchdown pass. We can play that game.
Yep.
And Malzahn, I don't know if he was just he developed this high school offense that he tried to bring into the NFL, and unless you had the exact perfect players, it was not going to succeed.
No, because when you think about it, other than the times that he's had, when he was offensive coordinator at Auburn with Cam, and then when he was the head coach at Auburn with Nick Marshall, that offense has never been that offense has never been consistently what it's supposed to be. I was just looking at the last night. They lost to Louisville last night. They lost to a Louisville team that looked absolutely, again, going back to my earlier point about did the first week of the season actually mean anything? They lost to a Louisville team that looked absolutely putrid against Ole Miss.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But this week, Ole Miss I'm looking at it, I guess it was a very long weather delay. Ole Miss is kicking. Tulane is giving them a good fight, but Ole Miss is just that much better. They're winning 61-21.
Is that game still on? Because I missed it on the weather game. I didn't know if they.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It actually looks like it's going to be, it's going to end after the Arizona State BYU game.
Okay, because I'm watching. Okay, I'm watching that right now.
Yeah, it's about halfway. It's about halfway through the third quarter.
Kiffin's got those boys playing.
They do. He does.
And I don't know how many jobs are going to be open in the SEC this year. If I'm LSU, if I'm Florida, if I'm Texas A&M, I'm looking at Kiffin.
You know what? If any of those schools get a chance to hire Lane Kiffin, somebody needs to go to the offices of USC and burn it down. Because Lane Kiffin, in hindsight, and this would be this should be exactly how they look at it. USC should be man enough, tough enough, strong enough to sit up there and say, you know what, Lane didn't, Lane had some issues back then, but in hindsight, we shouldn't have ran him off when we did.
Yeah, they should be able to say, yeah, Lane, we were going through probation. You had lost a lot of scholarships. You was 33 years old then. You wasn't mature enough for the job. You've learned a lot. It's time for you to come home and win a national championship.
That's exactly. You just said it. You just said it exactly how they should say it. You just said it exactly right. Lane Kiffin with USC would be money in the bank.
And I think that if they came to him and did that work, because Kiffin's got pride, and they came and they did that mea culpa and said, it's time for you to come home and win us a national championship and bring us back. His bags couldn't be packed quick enough in Oxford.
Oh, yeah.
And
especially
he would go back.
You give someone a chance to basically make up for one of the failures in his life. That was a
And,
failure in his life.
and in all fairness, with Kiffin, he took over a program that was missing 25 scholarships, and
you know what? That the funny thing about that is, if he hadn't have done as good as he did, I want to say it was his second year, maybe it might have been his first year. They actually outperformed their expectations, and that is why they went into that season before he got fired. That is why they started the season off #1 in the country when they had absolutely no business being #1 in the country.
I forgot all about they were ranked #1 in the country.
Yeah,
Now,
there
this
was
is
no
great.
reason why that team should have been #1.
And I forgot all about that. You're right. They should have never been #1. They put him in a spot that he shouldn't have been. And yeah, he did good that year. But what they weren't taking into effect is those scholarships starts running out, man. And when you've lost 25 scholarships over 3 years or whatever, and then attrition and then injuries, you're now looking at, you got 45 players on scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
You got 50 players on scholarship. I mean, you're not lining up on the same level. But I think you're exactly right. It's time for them to bring, Lane Kiffin back home. I mean, like I said, he's only 44. He's matured. He's the greatest offensive coordinator in the game.
Yep.
He's the greatest play caller from the sideline. I mean, he can call a play, and the moment the ball is snapped, he's already got his hands up.
He knows it's a touchdown. That's it, because he knows that and that, to me, that shows supreme confidence in not only your ability to call the plays, but also in your players to make the plays, because you're basically saying, even though the ball's still up in the air, I know that my quarterback made a damn good throw, and I know that my receiver is going to go up under that ball and catch it.
Well, what I don't even like to even further on that. What it says to me is when that ball is snapped and that quarterback is taking that half step back, he is such a visionary. He has already seen where the break is going to be made,
mm-hmm.
and where that he is such a visionary like that. And he's just that phenomenal. I mean, I hope somebody else gives him a job. I mean, I'm sure they will.
Like I said, if I'm saying it right now, if LSU or who else did you say?
I think Texas A&M. I think Jimbo's on the hot seat.
Now that you got to think, he's got a. I want to say that $75 million keeps on popping into my head. I want to say that's the number. There's 75 million reasons why Jimbo's not on the hot seat.
Well, but remember this right here. Jimbo, if they fire him tomorrow, he gets that money regardless.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if they fire him, they keep him. Jimbo gets that money. So, now Texas A&M, they've got the money. They can go pay off that. They can pay off.
I mean, I'm not. They got the money, but that's still $75 million. That's a pretty penny.
Here's the question that I've got to ask. You're still running for these guys. Jimbo's been there to win national championship. They're brought in. Who is going to finally take down the king? I mean, somebody's got to. You've got to end up beating him, right?
You know what? I hate to you know, I hate to say it. I really do think, and I would be glad. I would love to be proven wrong. I would love for this. I would love for you to at some point be able to rub this in my face.
Well, I would never do that to you.
Huh?
I said I would never rub anything in your face.
But I really do think that it's going to be Kirby.
And you know what? Let me probably advance or take that a little further. Okay, he loses to Kirby. He loses to Kiffin, or he loses to one of his assistants. What I'm talking about is, who is the guy who is going to totally dethrone him to where he is no longer Coach Bryant and he is no longer, Lou Parsasian. He is no longer Newt Rockney. He is now the guy who is the past.
Genuinely, nobody. It never happens.
It's never going to happen because that he will know the right time to get out, or it's never going to happen because there's just nobody better.
There's just nobody. Nobody is going to be better and able to actually do it at that point. No, like I said, I think and I'll also say this. I'll also say nobody's going to be able to do it, but also he's going to be smart enough and he is going to know when to get out, because when he gets, if he ever loses two conference games, if he ever loses two games in a season, I think he'll leave. He'll quit.
He did 2 years ago.
I mean, if he starts I don't want to say consistently, because I don't think he'll let it go long enough for it to reach a point where you can say it's consistent. But kind of like how Bobby Bowden was at the end.
That's what I'm saying. He's not going to be Bobby Bowden,
right? Where Bobby Bowden. Okay, you start off losing. He went the first 10 years or so in the ACC. Well, I think he only lost that one game to Virginia.
Yeah, I remember that game too, man. That was a hell of a game.
Yeah, and then eventually he started losing. He lost a game to North Carolina, and then he lost a game to Clemson. Then he lost a game to he just started racking up losses. Well, and he went from 2 losses to 3 losses to 4 losses, and then by the end of his career, he was losing 6 games. Losing 6 games a year.
Let me say this in his defense, though. When Bobby Bowden first came to Clemson really wasn't nothing. I mean, they wasn't winning, competing for national championships, so it wasn't like he was completing a lot of talent. But the Clemson coaches started recruiting enough to go up to a level to play with him. Mm-hmm. So I've got to give some credit to the Clemson coaches on that behalf.
Oh no, don't get me wrong. It's I give credit to that's one thing I'll always say is that teams nobody loses games. Teams win games. And those games that I'm saying, like the North Carolinas and the Clemsons, they beat Florida State. It wasn't the fact that Bobby Bowden was losing to those teams. They were beating Florida State. But right. But I do really think that Nick Saban, the day that he might lose to Georgia he might lose to Georgia this year, and he might drop another game, and next year he might do the same thing. He might lose two games, but he's not going to last too much longer.
Nick Saban
losing is not 2 or 3 games a year.
He's not going to be sitting there going 8-5.
Correct.
Nick Saban will see when I've accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, and he's not going to be a guy who hangs around that somebody's looking at some pathetic old man, and and I think that Saban is, he's old, but Saban is a youthful old. You don't look at Saban thinking he's 70-something years old.
Mm-hmm.
you know, not like you did at Bowden and Paterno, and
Oh yeah, and plus,
you know,
if I'm
yeah.
correct, you probably know this better than I do. Doesn't he? I know that when he's coaching, he's completely devoted to coaching. But doesn't he have like this nice beach house, this nice lake house or something that he always
Oh
likes
man,
spending his time on? And he
he's got
actually,
a like. I think he's got a lake house they got for him in Tuscaloosa, and I think they got a lake house for him up in North Georgia. And the one
there
in
is.
North,
That's the one I was thinking about, the one up in North Georgia, because
yeah.
they say Saban is up there, and a couple of other coaches have houses on. I think it's on Lake Hartwell.
And Saban loves. I mean, Saban loves that. I mean, that's his baby. Like what? And hell, okay, I can cuss on here. Rob Ezel, his receiver, gave a speech one time, and he could sound just like Saban. And he was out there, and he was doing. Saban said, "Get Ezel to impersonation of me." He said he doesn't like to see me do it, and he's in there in the locker room, and he's like, guys, today's practice was awful." He said, it was just horrible. He goes, "You come to practice and you don't you don't make weight. Well, I know calories. The air ain't got calories, guys." He goes, "The day I can't get you to do it right is the day I'm going to sit on the porch and watch the ducks fuck in the yard."
Hey, that's I really do think that would be the case. Because, like I said, he doesn't strike me as the kind of coach who, Bear Bryant, you know the story, you know the story better than I do. Bear Bryant retired from coaching, and then what happened? What, less than a year? Was it less than a year, or how long was it?
Less than a year, my friend. His last game was on December 31st. He died on January 26th.
Yeah. And then, and I realized when I say this one, I realized there were other issues at hand that probably brought his.
Yeah, Brian was a heavy drinker, smoker.
But no,
Um,
I was about to say, Paterno. When
Paterno,
as soon as he was
yeah.
ripped away from the sidelines, and again, I realized there were other issues that were probably plaguing his heart and probably weighing on him. That probably,
I didn't know he had lung cancer.
huh?
I didn't know Paterno had lung cancer.
I did. They did say he did have some kind of cancer, didn't they?
Yeah, he died of lung cancer.
Yeah, but they never said it. They never said anything about it because I
Well,
wanted.
they told it about a month afterwards, and they said it was treatable, and he started taking treatments for it, and then he died. And I don't know if it was small cell or non-small cell, but he passed. He passed away from it.
Yeah.
Saban seems pretty healthy, but cancer or something can strike us down at any time.
Well, like I said,
Um,
what I was saying about that is
okay.
he's the kind of guy who I don't think he's the kind of guy who it's going to bother him to be away from the game. You know what I'm saying? I think he's the kind of guy who, when it's time to go, it's time to go.
I agree with you on that. I will say that I will see Saban be invited in and say, "Hey, for a pregame show, break down this Michigan Ohio State game," and Saban will go in there and break it down. Or if there's a national championship game, and because I've seen him do this a few times, and he wants his analysis, and Saban will go in there and break it down and do stuff like that. But as far as being one of these guys who sits up in the booth all day every Saturday, I don't see that.
No.
I think Saban, when Saban walks away, Saban's going to walk away. Now, does that mean he's never going to come to a game and give his analyst and his opinion and break something down and something like that? Yeah, sure, I see that. I see him, being on a call-in interview and breaking down a game or something like that. But no, I think when he's gone, he's gone. I think that it's it.
Oh yeah. Like I said,
The
'cause
way
I think he's the kind of guy who, like I said, he doesn't need the game.
No, and I mean he doesn't. I mean, but it's the only thing he has. I mean, I read the story one time. I didn't know this, but both of his children are adopted.
I did not realize that.
Okay, and his wife alluded to the fact that Nick was so busy coaching, he would not procreate.
What's that?
I said his coaches was adopted, and his wife alluded to the fact that Nick was so busy and coaching was his life, he was not interested in procreating.
Oh,
So he didn't want. He didn't want to get no ass. He wanted to go watch tape.
you know
And
what? That strikes me as being real, because I want it, and that's the reason why I think that's the reason why I think he'll quit before it gets to a point to where he gets forced out or anything like that, or he gets embarrassed, he starts getting embarrassed or anything. It's because while he's coaching, he devotes himself 100% to coaching. But he's
yeah,
also the kind of guy who doesn't need to be coaching.
Right. No, absolutely not. Like, I remember reading a story one time, it was Christmas Day, and they had gave presents out, and he's just kind of sitting there and just kind of solemn, and Miss Terry goes, "What's wrong?" He goes, "Well, I really want to go watch film." And she said, "Okay, Nick, you can go watch film." Now, for the I love this right here, the way I got my college, but with my direct TV's put up. I got all kind of games going on right now. This is great. I'm watching Sark talk. I'm watching Miami's coach talk. I'm watching replay. UCLA's going on. I love this thing right here.
Oh, so you actually get the Pac-12 network.
Yeah, I got what I've got. You remember back last February when I was complaining about AT&T TV,
Mm-hmm.
and I was having some problem with them. Well, I got so sick of them. Well, I went out and I got Dish TV, and I was going to get 5 because I wanted one for my game room, and then one of the rooms I was going to rent out. But anyway, I ended up getting 3: living room, my bedroom, and my buddy Davis, who rents the back bedroom. And I got 3 boxes, and I got the middle package, I think, and maybe the base package. I can't remember what it was, but it's $91. And with 3 boxes, I just don't think I can beat that.
Yeah.
And with all the channels on it, and the way I've got it set up right now, I'm watching. I've got 6 channels going on right now. But what was I going to say? I was going to say, the 900-pound pink elephant in the room. And I've been saying this for years, and everybody told me I was crazy. Urban Meyer is going to be the next head coach at USC.
You think he's actually going to? You think he's actually going to get run out of? Well, let me ask. Do you think he quits on the Jaguars, or does he get run out of town by the Jaguars?
And I think he is almost going to be like Bobby Petrino. As soon as that thing is offered to him, whether it's the 11th game of the season, he's going to be on the first plane to LA.
Wow. You're when you compare somebody to Bobby Petrino, you are really speaking very ill of their you're really speaking very ill of their status as a man. You really
I'm
think that?
going to tell you, I think, and it sounds right. In a way, I think Petrino has more status of a man than Urban.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, for the stuff that Urban let go on, he knew what kind of person Hernandez was. He let this stuff go on. He kept that coach on his staff that had beat his wife unmercifully. I don't have respect for Urban Meyer. I think he's a great coach, but I think he's a complete and total sleazebag.
You know what? I cannot say that I can't say that you are not right. You very well may be. I
You
just
know,
I
with
I I think that if he leaves Jacksonville, he goes home.
Petrino, you talking about goes back to um like he quits coaching or he goes back to another school.
Who?
You talking about all right? See, Urban Meyer. You think Urban Meyer does what now?
No, when Urban Meyer, however things end in Jacksonville, I think he's done.
I don't think so. I think because he's still young enough, and I think he wants. I've been saying for years USC was going to be the job because he's been at Florida, he's been at Ohio State. I think USC's the jobs he wants. And I want to say something about Petrino a while ago. Yeah, Petrino, what he did is probably not the most outstanding thing, cheating, all that stuff right there. But comparing that to what the stuff that Urban Meyer looked over, where people lose their lives, that's kind of that's not
And
real.
again, I don't think I can disagree with you on that. My only issue with comparing the two is I and as I'm putting it through my head, I do realize that I'm being a little bit hypocritical because I am kind of, well, I don't think
Yeah,
maybe hypocritical isn't the right word. I am being a little bit, I am maybe soft. I am maybe not giving what Urban was, because I do think you're right. I think you're 100% right. He knew what Hernandez was doing. He knew what was going on with all those other kids in his program, and I think he basically used Tim Tebow to as a buffer. Yeah. So I guess I am kind of being bad because I'm saying that, and maybe it's because I'm a fan of the Falcons, and to me, Bobby Petrino will always be the scum of the earth for what he did to Atlanta. But to
I
me,
have a
Bobby,
different take on that. And I'm sorry, you go ahead, and I'll
what
say
I was
my
going to
own.
say is, to me, Bobby Petrino, what he did, and again, I realize that I'm probably soft selling what Urban did. To me, Urban didn't go out and kill anybody. I know that sounds like a terrible thing to say, because I realize that I'm probably making excuses for him. He may have known what Hernandez was doing, but he didn't actually go out there and do it himself. And so I guess my whole thing is, if he, let's say, what could he have possibly done to stop Hernandez from doing what he was doing?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is get him off the team.
But that's why, if he kicks him off the team, what do you think Hernandez does?
I don't know. I mean,
he's probably still going to be out there living the life of a gangster wannabe.
Or what Hernandez could also do, he could take that whole program down with him. Hey, look, I got $75,000. I got $25,000. I've been paid $400,000 to play for this school. Man, he could have got them, in major problems.
Yeah.
With Petrino, I want to say this about Petrino with Atlanta. Petrino, I don't hold the ill will towards Petrino that a lot of Falcons fans probably do, because, and I could refresh my memory because sometimes I forget. Petrino went believing that Michael Vick was going to be his quarterback, and when
I think, did he? That is a good.
That's what I thought. And I thought that's what happened. And then the ruling was passed down, and Vic was suspended or something. The Arkansas job came open. Arkansas was loaded. He's got a prime job in the SEC, and he took the job. Now I could have my facts back, mixed up. Again,
No. What you're 100% right. That is, Vic was still there. Vic didn't have his issues until right before training camp. So Petrino
Right.
was indeed. He did it. He was indeed supposed to be coaching Michael Vick, which
So it's hard for me to really blame that on him, thinking I've got, one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL that time. I've got receivers. I got a chance to set up for a Super Bowl run. I lose my quarterback. Got a good job at Arkansas, comes open. I'm going to take the job.
I would agree with you, and I will admit you have given me, you have turned me a little bit away from thinking that Bobby Petrino is the scum of the earth.
Okay.
But be honest about it. If that's the way that you feel, if you're Bobby Petrino and that is how you feel, I guess that's part of the reason that I also hate Bobby Petrino is the fact that he was, from everything that he always said to the players and the way that he handled his whole, he was not made to deal with grown men, if that makes any sense.
Yes, that's exactly right.
He was made to deal with college kids who didn't have any choice.
Yeah.
They had to listen, especially back then with no transfer market, no transfer window, whatever they call it, the transfer portal. He signed those kids to their name on the bottom line, and he had full control over them for 4 years unless they wanted to sacrifice a year.
Yeah, because you think about it. When you said that about grown men, and compare 2 coaches. I mean, the 2 greatest coaches ever. They have the same dry personality and everything, but you compare the 2 guys. As great as coaches what they are, Bill Belichick would not be a successful coach in college football, and Nick Saban would not be a successful coach in the NFL. Nick Saban could not deal with men and talking to them in that way. Belichick could not get down there on the college kids level and talk to them the way a father talks to a son, so if that makes sense.
No, it makes 100% sense because Bill Belichick, part of his deal is you're going to act like a professional and you're going to do when I tell you to do something as a professional, I expect you to do it. And if you don't do it, I'm going to get rid of you. You can't do that in college. I mean, you could do that.
Right.
You could do that after the season is over when you don't renew their scholarships, but you can't sign somebody off the street to replace this guy. You gotta deal with who you got during the season.
And when Saban has a blow up out there on the field, what does his players do? They walk right past him and don't pay attention and just ignore, and they don't argue back. They whatever. I've seen them get in their faces, and they just keep on. You can't do that to a 30-year-old man.
Mm-mm.
You might can do that to that 19-year-old kid that Saban grabs by the shirt and yelling at him, forget that. But you're not going to do that to a 32-year-old man.
No.
And that's the difference, because in pro football, this is a business where the people are working together. College football is totally different. Is just a different beast.
Oh my goodness! Are you watching this BYU Arizona State game?
Oh man, this thing is awesome.
Arizona State just had a fumble. Well, they just had an interception or a fumble return, and the guy's on the 10-yard line and gets stripped by BYU.
I mean, I wish you could watch this while I've got 6 channels going right now.
Oh yeah, it was an interception, and he is rumbling. He's right there. All he's got to do is just step out of bounds at some point. All he had to do was just step out of bounds.
I mean, I mean, I just, I love it. Um, and Saban too. I don't know if Saban on the wrong channel. If he could I, it's weird. I don't know. When I think about him with the thing with the coaches, and I watch coaches in the NFL, and I see Belichick talk to his coaches and Saban talk to his coaches. I don't think that you're going to see Belichick's coaches sit there and get screamed at in the face like Saban is with his coaches.
No.
If Saban starts screaming at one of those coaches, those players, they're going to laugh at him.
What is it? It's easy. That's one thing I'm interested because remember Bill O'Brien had that dust up with Tom Brady on the sidelines a couple of years ago in New England. I'm interested to see if they were if they ever if it ever, obviously it may not even come to it, but if they ever did come to it, how would Bill O'Brien deal with Saban getting at him the same way that Saban got at Lane Kiffin at one time?
Well, not remember that. Well, here say this about this. Saban got in Sark's face after that national championship game, where they said it was almost like furniture moving. The thing about Kiffin is that I love is if you watch those blow-ups with Saban on Kiffin would never even acknowledge him.
No.
Kiffin would ignore him. Kiffin would act like he wasn't there. That would make him more mad. And the more Kiffin ignored him, the more enraged he got until he would just be into just a utter, just frenzy because Kiffin would just ignore him. And I would just laugh at that watching him yell at Kiffin. And it was hysterical to me because Kiffin he would be sitting there he would be sitting there literally like I'm in your ear, screaming in your ear, and Kiffin's looking at the playbook and he's never even paying attention to Saban. And Saban's just screaming.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, now it's getting a little bit late, so I see if we
It's
can.
been fun. We'll do it again week. I hate we missed our show, but we'll do it again next week. And
yeah, like I said, I started a new
later.
job, and I was it kind of took me out of it this week, but hopefully I'll be up for it next week.
We'll certainly do that.
Before we go, so you gave your top five, or did you give? I think you gave you gave your top five. Is that really your top five?
My top five of college football right now, from what I've seen, I would say Alabama is number one.
Mm-hmm.
I would say and this is really a tough one for me because what the two teams have done, I'm probably going to go with. Oh gosh, I'm going to go with. I'm going to do what they used to do. Okay, what I've seen them do before, where I have 5 teams but only name 4.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with Alabama number 1, Penn State and Auburn number 2, followed by Georgia at number 3. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then my 5th team is probably going to be Oklahoma.
Okay. I'm going to give you my top 5, and then I'm also
Okay.
going to give you my, I guess maybe my top 2 surprise teams, or might be
Okay.
2 or 3. Number
I'll do that too.
number 1, I number 1, I'm going to go ahead on and say it's still Alabama,
Okay.
but it's by the thinnest of a margin, because
Yeah.
again, we don't know what this game against Florida really represents.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
like I said, right now I'm still going to give Alabama the number one vote. Number 2 is UGA. Number 3,
Over Penn State.
yep. Number 3 is Penn State.
Okay.
Number 4, I'm going to put Iowa there.
Iowa.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, Indiana
I,
is,
I'm not going. I'm not going to dispute that. I'm not going to disagree with you.
because I do think that Indiana, even though they're sitting at 1-2 right now, they're probably going to end up being about a 7-win, 8-win team. So that
Yeah.
Indiana win, I do think is still a good win. And of course, Iowa State, I think, is a good win. So honestly, Iowa and Penn State, I think, have the two total. Georgia has the best win of the season. Georgia and Oregon have the best individual wins of the season, but Iowa and Penn State have the best pair of wins.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. That's fair enough.
As I say that, I think that Georgia and Oregon, their individual wins probably are bigger than the totality of the 2 wins that Iowa and Penn State have, but it's still, they have 2 wins. They have 2 good wins compared to 1 good win. They have 2 good wins compared to 1 great win. I guess that's the way to say it.
All right. So.
And number 5, I'm going to say Oklahoma, and we didn't get a chance to touch on it, but I wanted to say that the matter of fact, that game was the one game that made me think, did the first week of the season really mean anything? Because Nebraska looks like a totally different team than what they looked like the first week of the season.
Absolutely. This game is good.
They had Oklahoma on the ropes, and if they had a kicking game, if their special teams was worth anything, they win that game, because the final margin is 8 points, the 2 field goals, and the 2-point conversion. That's your 8 points right there.
All right, now your surprise team of the year so far.
My surprise team of the year. Now, because
it's early, so anything.
Right, but I do think this team has shown something. Because I expected Michigan to be good, it's the other Michigan team. It's Michigan State as my surprise team of the country.
That's a pretty good choice. My surprise team that is my dark horse, and everybody's probably going to laugh at me and call me crazy and stupid, but my surprise team, my dark horse, maybe not to win the national championship, but to win a championship and get in the playoff. My surprise, my dark horse is Ole Miss.
I'm a fan.
Yeah. I mean, and they're getting better.
Yes. Matter of fact, let me check and see exactly, because that's the thing. this too. Okay, I guess they've kind of called off the dogs because it's still only 61-41. Well, yeah, it's still 61-21. This Tulane team matter of fact, Tulane gave Oklahoma a run for their money last week.
And one thing I've noticed is too, they're not giving up 60 points, 50 points a game like they was last year.
No.
No. And, you pull off an upset in T-Town and, let the chips fall where they may. I mean,
Well, I'm just looking at their schedule. They get an off week next week. Guess who they're playing the week after?
Alabama.
Yep. Oh, I guess you probably had that. You probably already have that circled on your schedule.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Matter of fact, this is going to be because they got Alabama, then they got Arkansas, Tennessee. But you know what? If you're Ole Miss, going to Tennessee is still a tough game. And then versus LSU, at Auburn, Liberty is a tough game, and at Texas A&M. That stretch of games right there, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 legitimate top-notch tests. That's going to be that's going to if they can make it, that's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough. That's your stretch run. I give Tennessee the win. I know it's tough. I give Texas A&M the win. I think Alabama's the game.
Yep.
And probably Auburn.
Well, you know what? I'll be honest with you. If you can go in and you can beat, obviously, if you can go in and you can beat Alabama, you should be able to beat any of these other teams. But if you can just play Alabama tough, like last year at Alabama, there's no reason why you shouldn't. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to run through the rest of the schedule
and finish 11-1. Then if you lose to Alabama in a tight game, Alabama goes undefeated, wins the SEC. You're 11-1. You're in the playoffs.
Well, it's the exact scenario. It was the exact scenario that I laid out last week for Texas A&M, but it holds true for A&M as well. Matter of fact, and I'll go ahead on. Let's put it on the table. Arkansas at this point.
Arkansas.
They got to play. Well, I just looked at it. They got to play Georgia. So
Arkansas. Oh, that should be fun. To me, right now, I give that Arkansas is the most dangerous team in the SEC because nobody's really giving them
nobody expects it.
Nobody's paying attention to them.
Yeah.
Nobody's paying attention to them. And when they pull up and they beat LSU or they beat Texas A&M or they beat Auburn, and then everybody goes, "Oh, wait just a damn minute."
Well, I just pulled their schedule. Just pulled their schedule up. They got Texas A&M next week.
I always love that Georgia Texas A&M game.
Huh?
I always love that Georgia Texas A&M game. I always love that Arkansas Texas A&M.
Oh yeah, that a little bit. It's that's an old that was the old Southwest Conference rivalry.
Yeah.
But now let me ask you this, and we could probably end on this because it's looking ahead a little bit. Let's just hypothetically say Arkansas beats Texas A&M next week. The first week of October, you got UGA, you got Arkansas at UGA, but then you also have, because again they got an off week this week. You also have Ole Miss at Alabama. Which one of those is your SEC game of the week?
All right, now Arkansas is beating Texas A&M,
Yeah, Arkansas beats Texas A&M.
and now Texas A&M plays Georgia, or Arkansas plays
Arkansas is
Georgia.
playing Georgia. That's Arkansas's next two games. They're hosting Texas A&M and
Okay.
they're at UGA.
I'm going to say and this is provided that Ole Miss is still undefeated.
Yeah, they're off next week.
Okay, I'm going to say, because of that game last year, that it will be Ole Miss Alabama because of the Saban Kiffin rivalry, so to speak.
Okay.
Now I could be totally wrong, and they go with Georgia and Texas A&M because of Alabama fatigue. But just thinking about how close that game was, the rivalry, Kiffin likes to talk shit. I could see it being that game.
It is going to be like I said, the big if is Arkansas's got to beat Texas A&M. But that is going to be a very interesting, if that does happen. That'll be a very interesting scenario.
That will be. And I tell you what, we will talk this on Thursday, I guess.
Yep.
And
look forward to it.
Pick out our 5 games, and I'll talk to you more. I won't mention your job or anything here. We'll talk about our 5 games, and right now, I know it's kind of hard to say, but it's early. I really can't pick one. Could you think of a Heisman candidate?
No, I can't.
Yeah, I can't either.
Because, I said, it's a whole lot of. First of all, we didn't have a front runner coming into the season, and I don't think anybody is really taking. No, I'll say.
No.
This is somebody who I'll say to keep in mind. If Ohio State rolls through the rest of their schedule the way that I kind of think that they will end up rolling through the rest of their schedule, and that running back that he had a huge game today against Tulsa. Basically, he carried them to that win. I want to say he had like 277 yards. If he has that kind of, if he keeps on having those kind of games, that's my guy.
You may very well be right. But I guess until Thursday, we'll talk to them. Hey, before we cut, I have to cut it off. Hey, can I call you on Skype for like 2 minutes? I want to ask you something.
Okay.
Because I don't want to keep you on there long, but because I don't want to put it on here because everybody else will see the whole conversation.
Okay.
And, yeah. Okay. But anyway, I'll talk to you then. But I'll call you on Skype right now.
All right.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
All right.